Hello, everyone. This is Cole from the American Journal of Healthcare Strategy, and here with me this evening is Enlin. Enlin, please introduce yourself.
My name is Enlin Carow. I recently graduated from the George Washington University with my master's in health administration. I am currently the administrative fellow in the pathology department at Columbia University Irving Medical Center.
So happy to have you on this evening. You have such a great amount of experience, and you're our first fellow from Columbia. So we're so excited to talk about that. It's a very renowned school and a renowned city. So it's very interesting. So you went to George Washington University. You're going to be finishing up this May, right?
hmm
Congratulations on that. It's a great program. How did you like it?
Yeah, I really loved my experience at GW. I especially loved my cohort. We were able to kind of bond and get really close working on school projects and also hanging outside of the classroom as well and exploring the DC area. So I can say that I really loved it.
Excellent. Yeah, the DC is it's definitely different than anywhere else. They have the cleanest subways. It's so you started off at University of Pittsburgh, right? Are you from the Pittsburgh area? What led you to go to that school?
No, so I am from New Jersey. And when I was deciding on where to go for my undergrad degree, I wanted to be somewhere far away and in a city. And so in my search, I went to visit the University of Pittsburgh, fell in love with the campus and everything, and ended up there. So it was about a 5 hour drive from my house in New Jersey. So it was a
Mhm.
pretty good distance and everything.
Good. That's not. Yeah, I did the same thing when I started undergrad. I wanted to be a bit far from my parents and experience something different.
Yeah.
You've actually traveled kind of a lot, right? You've traveled to London for one of your internships. You've traveled to Minnesota. So would you say that traveling is something that you're kind of passionate about?
Yeah, I definitely love going new places and everything. I would say that before going into my undergrad degree, some of my cousins have studied abroad. And so they told me that it's something that you have to do when you're in college and everything. So my second year of my sophomore year, I applied to go to London, and that's where I was able to both study abroad and do an international internship. So it was
That's
really great.
That is super cool. It gives you a good, wider perspective on things. That's really neat. So one of the things I wondered looking at it is it seems like, you work a little bit, you've done some stuff in supply chain management, and then you went and got the MHA. What was the kind of change and why did you choose supply chain management? And then why did you get the MHA? What was going on at that time?
Yeah, so I think in my undergrad degree, going into like my freshman year and everything, I wasn't exactly sure what specific area I wanted to concentrate in the business school. And then I took a supply chain class and we were talking about optimization and Lean Six Sigma and like, I guess, kind of streamlining operations. And that really piqued my interest. And then also, I feel like at that time, supply chain was sort of a new up and coming hot major. So I decided I wanted to learn more and decided to go the supply chain route as my undergrad major. And then from there, I knew that I wanted to work in healthcare, but I wasn't necessarily sure how I could contribute the skills and kind of experiences that I had being more on the business side. And then my one friend from home actually told me that she was applying to MHA programs. And then I started looking into that and realizing that, oh, there's more to healthcare than just the clinical side and everything. So then I started doing my research and I really liked GW's program because of the kind of not mandatory, but encouraged fellowship aspect of it. I knew that going into a master's program and trying to transition into healthcare wasn't going to necessarily be easy because I didn't have that public health background that most people have going into their MHA programs. So I kind of knew from the get-go that I wanted to do a administrative fellowship to kind of get my foot in the door and really understand what it is to work in a healthcare organization.
That makes a lot of sense. I know and I know even people with experience in some different areas of healthcare, it's also that experience in like the business side of things. So I think that I've heard that a lot where the fellowship really helps to kind of target people and helps them figure out exactly where they fit in. I noticed that you did a supply chain internship with Alina Health. Was that something that you just like randomly found when you're looking for internships? Because it kind of seems like it's perfectly made for your prior experience.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was kind of random how I found it. I literally just like was looking up healthcare internships online. And I've been to Minnesota before. And when I interviewed with the team at Alina, I really liked the culture that was there. And then I also wanted to kind of see how my background in supply chain could potentially fit into healthcare. And so that internship was a really great opportunity for me to kind of learn and see the importance of having lean operations and having that, like I mentioned before, the streamlined process of getting all of your supplies, all of your materials, and everything when you need them at the right place at the right time. And so I also feel that obviously the pandemic really disrupted every single supply chain operation, not necessarily just in healthcare. So it was interesting to kind of see the aftermath of that and see kind of how they were trying to bounce back and pivot, working with different suppliers and different, I guess, like medical sales organizations.
Definitely. That seems very, very interesting because we've, all heard on the news everything going on during that time and then how they were trying to kind of rebuild the supply chains. And then, so after that, towards the end of your MHA, you started applying for the fellowships, of course. Can I ask how many you applied to?
Oh, I definitely applied to over 10.
And then, can I ask, why did you apply for the one at Columbia? What stuck out to you about that one?
Yeah, definitely. So at the time when I was applying to fellowships, I knew that I wanted to be in kind of a major metropolitan area. So I was really only applying to fellowships in DC, Chicago, and New York. And so obviously being from New Jersey, ideally I was trying to kind of end up back in my home area in the city. And so when I applied, I also liked the aspect that I was able to kind of go and do a deep dive in a specific department within the Columbia's organization. They're actually changing it up this year. And so now the two fellows that are coming onto Columbia are going to have a more, I guess, wider breadth of experiences because they'll be able to rotate throughout different departments within Columbia. But I think for me, the interview aspect that I had and the connections that I made during my interview process really drew me to Columbia. I really liked the culture at the pathology and cell biology department. I think me and my preceptor, her name's Joanne, I think we really clicked during the interview, and that kind of led me to rank them higher in my fellowship search and everything.
Nice. That's I've heard that a few times how that interview can make a really big impact on getting a fellow. A lot of people worry about this, and we don't need to have any specific numbers, but I know from physician fellows in New York City, it can be really challenging because of the expense to pay for rent, to pay for food. What is that like as an administrative fellow? Is that something you've had to really worry about a lot? What would you tell some of the other fellows in the same situation looking for programs in New York City?
Yeah, definitely. So I know that my salary right now at Columbia is a little lower than what the fellows who are incoming next year will have. They'll be around the same like market rate as other organizations such as I think NYU and Northwell. So I think for me, it might be a little different, kind of trying to prioritize what I want to spend my money on and everything. I think one aspect, especially being in a big city, specifically in New York, it's really important to try and find roommates. I'm currently living with two of my really close friends from high school. And so we're obviously paying less than someone who would be living in the same area as us in a one bedroom apartment by themselves. So I think it's really important to just be cognizant about what money you're spending on because it's so easy to walk outside, go grab a coffee, grab a snack, grab dinner, and then you come home and somehow you spent $100. I
Of
think
course,
really
of
just being
course.
cognizant about what you're spending your money on is definitely a helpful tip. regardless of if you're in the city or if you're in somewhere where the cost of living is a little cheaper.
That makes a lot of sense. So not as loose as, with the money as some fellowships, in the cheaper areas are, but it's not anything crazy.
Yeah.
That's nice. And then another question that's kind of a personal question. Some people like myself are wondering, is New York City worth the extra, tightness that you have to have? Do you think it's been worth working in the city? Have you really enjoyed it?
100%. Yeah. There's so many great things about New York. First, it's such a walkable city. Even if like I'm living downtown and there's still so many places. I've been here since July and there's so many places still in my neighborhood that I haven't necessarily gotten a chance to explore. So it really just goes to show how big the city really is and how many new opportunities and new experiences you can have. And it's really hard to kind of fit everything into a year because I'm so far guaranteed only a year in New York as my fellowship ends this coming June.
And well, I guess, yeah, I'll ask this, I guess. So are you looking to stay in the city then, or stay with Columbia even after your fellowship?
Yeah, definitely. I think going into my fellowship, I didn't necessarily realize or have the experience, obviously, of working in an academic medical center. But my experiences so far, I really like how everyone and the culture is really puts a heavy emphasis on learning and professional development and just trying new things. So I think definitely if I have an opportunity to stay at Columbia, I would take it. But I'm not necessarily tied down and only looking at Columbia. I'm also looking at other healthcare systems within this area, and then also potentially like maybe back in DC too.
Excellent. So you're trying to keep your options open there.
Yeah.
And, so what are some of the projects that you've worked on, and what are a few that you've really enjoyed the most?
Yeah, definitely. So I can think of two that really stand out to me. The first one is a process improvement project that I've been working on with one of the transplant service lines. And here we were kind of just like optimizing and changing their workflow so that it was more automated and less on the manual side. And this experience really kind of I guess it allowed me to kind of bridge what I've learned in my undergrad degree with process improvement, also with my grad degree at GW, and then kind of, I guess, merge that with learning how to work with other people, work with senior PIs, work with lab techs, work with also the my preceptor who's the DA and CFO. So it really, I guess, kind of showed me a broader picture of what it is to do change management, process improvement, project management, and how you really kind of have to have a vision and really be able to kind of articulate and back up why you're creating this change. Because obviously, if you're changing someone's workflow, not everyone's going to be 100% on board with it, as people are used to doing things a certain way. And so it really showed me and allowed me to kind of practice my change management skills. So I think that one project is pretty cool because we were actually able to implement the change and we had the go live date in January. So I feel like it's not necessarily like always usual where people are able to show the vision of what they're trying to do, actually implement the change, and then see what happens after it. So I feel like I got pretty lucky in that regard. And then I guess my second project that I'm working on still is a data analysis project of the department as a whole. And so basically I'm tracking like some DEI metrics about like salary, tenure rates, I already said compensation, turnover, career progression, and everything. So I've been able to kind of, I guess, like dig around in that data, analyze it, showcase trends and everything. And I showed it to the department chair who's going to use some of the metrics and everything to help his initiatives, I guess, in June when he shows off his new like slide deck of initiatives.
Excellent. Those both sound very, very exciting. How has that January go live went? Did it go well?
It did. We did have to push it back a couple of days, but honestly, so far since then, we haven't had any major hiccups with the system. Obviously, there were a couple. starting out and everything. But we've had a couple follow-up meetings and everything seems to be going well so far. So knock on wood. But
Nice,
yeah,
congratulations.
yeah.
That's excellent. What are some areas that you're thinking of looking at? You said you were looking in the DC and the New York area. What are some, job titles or job departments that you're interested in working in?
So I think I'm definitely interested in strategy. I think I would also say, I guess, like project management, process improvement jobs. I'm not necessarily specifically tied down to those specific titles. I would be open also to, I guess, like apply for practice manager roles or like supervisor roles and everything. But I think more so I'm looking for strategy and like project management.
Nice. Those are some hot areas right now. I know a lot of the fellows, they tend to go in those areas. I like process improvement a lot. And of course, I've been getting into strategy more now. We're the Journal of Healthcare Strategy. So I found that I need to educate myself on what that means. But those are both very, very popular areas for a lot of fellows. So I want to ask you, you've accomplished a project from beginning to end successfully. And your career is also like a project as well that you've done very well at accomplishing, starting from undergrad through grad school through these internships, and then now you're making big moves in your fellowship. What are some challenges you've overcome, and what have you learned from that you can share with students earlier on, like myself? What could I do to succeed like you have?
Definitely. So I think one personal challenge that stands out to me that I'm still kind of struggling with is, I guess, imposter syndrome and feeling like, oh, I'm just a fellow. Like, I just started at this organization. I don't have the skills or like the knowledge to kind of make these higher level decisions to like senior or executive leaders. But I've really learned throughout my time at Columbia so far that one, Columbia as an organization really does appreciate new perspective, new ideas. Obviously, just coming straight from undergrad to grad school to the fellowship, I feel, I guess in the back of my head, it's like, oh, you don't have that much work experience. But we really do have a bunch of different experience from past internships to what we're learning in our classes and everything. And so I think I would tell someone who was in my position last year that to be confident in the decisions that you're making, to just have an idea and to kind of own it. And if you have the, I guess, knowledge and kind of like data, if you have that to back up what you're trying to present, then there really is no need to feel that imposter syndrome.
Definitely. That is really, really good advice for the imposter syndrome, is having that data to back it up. I was told, I was struggling with that a bit as well in some of these meetings. I was, my ideas I would come out with weren't always taken. And one of my mentors said, well, you need to have better data to back it up. I'm like, well, I have the data. I'm like, well, why aren't you showing the data? And so that's very good advice too. But, you do have a lot of experience, especially compared to someone just starting out. If you think about yourself 5 years ago, you've come a long way. So that's very good advice. How is the networking and support been at Columbia? That's one of the questions that I've been asking people. Do you feel like you have a really good connection with your preceptor?
Yeah, yeah. So at Columbia, personally, I feel like the culture and specifically like the networking and alumni culture are really good. So my cohort has 9 fellows, including me. The past cohort, I think, had a similar number. And so I feel like so for example, I wanted to shadow a practice manager. And so I reached out to the fellowship coordinator who also happens to be a past fellow. And he put me in touch with someone who is like a fellow alum, and I was able to shadow her. Me and, like I mentioned before, Joanne have a really good working relationship. I asked her if I was able to shadow a surgery because that's something that I definitely wanted to experience, obviously working in a health system. And she was able to talk to her kind of network team, and we were able to get me to shadow a breast surgeon. And so I feel that if I need any help, I can always turn to my current fellows or my past fellows or even my classmates from GW. So I feel like the networking aspect in healthcare is definitely something that is really important to kind of thrive and like grow, I guess.
I definitely agree, and it does sound like that's really nice that they've able to shadow different people and that you've had those opportunities. So that is excellent. I really appreciate your time. We could probably talk for a lot longer, but I really do appreciate you sharing all this information with us, and I hope that you'll consider coming back on again as you get your new role and as you finish up your fellowship.
Yeah, definitely.